surprised that there was a games company operating in Cardiff. It's not something that Cardiff usually pushes to the fore as something that they have. Would you say that there is a current trend for gaming production in Wales, and would you also say that it's a good place to be making games today?
Well, there's certainly a gaming trend in the UK that's woefully misunderstood by the media. We punch way above our weight in gaming. We should be famous and trumpeting it. People talk about British this and British that, cars, manufacturing, things that Britain's been famous for in the past. Right now, Britain's a world leader at game manufacture. There's many firms, I won't list them now, making household name games, and Brits who are now in America doing fabulous games in American firms who've learned their trade in the UK, probably because of the amazing home computer boom that we had in the 80s, where everyone could get themselves a Spectrum or whatever and learn a bit of coding, so that there's now this do-it-yourself mentality that's created all kinds of wonderful talent. So it's very much the case that the UK is a great place to make games in. Wales itself has been good for Microcosm. We've had support from the Welsh Government through grant support and advice, and we've really felt supported at every step. And whilst the people we've talked to often haven't quite understood what we're doing, because we're a weird form of gamer and they're used to, nuts and bolts or whatever it might be, they've still done their very best to understand what our needs are and give us support. And Cardiff is part of what's called the M4 corridor in terms of the fact that the UK's technology industries seem to have spread out west from London. So they were in Swindon 15 years ago, in Bristol, and coming to Cardiff over the last 10 years. So there's also people and talent that we can employ from this area. So Cardiff feels like a pretty good place to be making games for us at the moment.
Obviously, at the moment, you're very busy with the One Ring. But are there any thoughts as to where Microcosm may be going in the future, or is there anything that you yourself would like to work on?
Yeah, we've got pretty big plans, actually. Facebook is seen as our first step, and Microcosm's got a great deal of telecoms expertise, and we've been talking to some fairly major hardware manufacturers to see if we can work with them to bring this game out as a mobile phone game. We think we've got the rocket scientists to do the tricky bits of that, and the game's been designed with a bit of a mind to the possibility of having it as a mobile game, because a lot of the same things that you have on a social web in terms of its communication, you have on a mobile phone. It's a brilliant device for people to contact each other, and our game is all about people talking to each other. So that's one direction that we'd like to take the One Ring. And we're also alert to the possibility of moving to the other social network sites. There's about 18 in total, of which at least 6 are comparable with Facebook, and they might do well. We've also think that this game is a flagship game, and it'll be integrated into a bigger project we're currently calling Lords of Middle-earth, and I can't tell you too much about that at the moment, but it'll be a much bigger experience with games within it, of which the One Ring would be one of them. And that would give people a more persistent game experience than the One Ring, which is a sort of 15-turn, 20-turn game that you play till you stop. And that would hopefully appeal to people who like building things up more and who like being part of a really long-term game as opposed to something shorter.
So could you see the project moving in towards more conventional mediums, be it on as software on a PC or even onto consoles? Could you see it moving that way, or is it?
No. I think we've got no interest in that. I don't think it's the way forwards. I think the social web is going to be the hot area of gaming for the next period of time until something new comes along. And we did well in business when we figured out that the internet was going to be good in the 90s. we got on the front of that wave, and I think the social web is going to do something different, but still important in the way that people are already reacting differently with each other. People from Generation Facebook and people who Twitter with each other are much more used to finding out what their friends are doing than ever was the case in the past, of being much more connected to people, and that'll be part of what games are like. And I think a lot of people will make much less money from those kind of niche games for the solitary young male gamer than for games which almost everyone might choose to participate in.
Yeah. Well, on a final note, for any aspiring designers, directors, producers, game makers in general out there, do you have any handy tips?
Brand. You can be 6 times as successful with a Tolkien game than Billy's Magic Kingdom, which is tough because there's only a few good brands and it's tough to get access to them. Classic joke about gaming is how to make a small fortune from gaming is to start with a big fortune. It's a very, very difficult business to make money in. There's an awful lot of people doing it for hobby, for fun, which is great. But that means if you're trying to make money and someone else has made the same game as you for free for fun, that's going to be really hard to make your money from that. Networking. Undervalued by a lot of people, but you've got to know the right people at the right times. And pretty much my successes and businesses that I've worked with, successes, have come down to knowing someone at the right moment for something to happen. So that's crucial. And here I'm not talking about how much talent have you got, because like in a lot of businesses, being talented, it's important, but it's not what matters when you look back with hindsight. It's having got something right, made a decision right, known the right person at a certain time. Just being good won't necessarily make you rich. Britain, of course, is very good at making inventors who don't make the money from their products. I think in games that's probably quite true as well. So knowing your business rather than just being good at game work, working out how you're going to make money from what you're doing, because if you can't make money from what you're doing, no matter how good you are and how dedicated you are, you will run out of puff at some point. There'll come a bill, you'll have been doing it for 5 years, you won't have earned enough money, your significant other will say, do you mind earning some money now? Or you'll want to do something with your life and you haven't got any money, and eventually you'll give up and go and work in a bank. So unfortunately, you have to make sure that the money side of things is working. You can't just do it for fun or for love if you want to make it your job.
Okay, well, thank you. That was a very enlightening, Sam. And
You're welcome.
thanks for speaking to us today.
No problem.